The new fusion is here and I really want to take a look at it. Hello everybody, I'm Roadblock and this is a Raid Shadow Legends video. I am very excited today because we have a new fusion. I'm also excited because the new fusion is really one of my favorite characters from the Assassin's Creed franchise, which is Kassandra. Now, I never actually played this Assassin's Creed game. Well, actually, technically, I think I played it for a couple minutes, but I watched my wife play it a lot. So I've always enjoyed the character Kassandra. She played as Kassandra instead of the brother character. So I get a lot of Kassandra's story from just secondhand stuff. So I'm kind of excited that that is the fusion. So being able to have a guaranteed chance at one character I really connected with from the franchise. I think I mentioned in another video that has been taken down that other characters that I really like in Assassin's Creed are Connor from Assassin's Creed 3, and his name is escaping me right now, but the one from Valhalla. I played a bunch of Valhalla, so those are the two that I really have the deepest connection and affinity for. So, okay, let's jump into it, and let's jump into it, okay? So, for the A1, attacks one enemy 3 times, attacks one enemy 6 times instead if this champion has 50% HP or less. Each hit decreases the enemy's turn meter by 7.5% and increases this champion's turn meter by 7.5%. This effect cannot be resisted if this champion is under a Veil or Perfect Veil buff. Okay, I have mixed feelings about this. And I want to be very, very clear. Listen up. I just got a new promo link that you can use to follow along with me on my latest free-to-play adventure and get a free Elenaril, as well as 3 more powerful epics as you level up. Here's how to do it. Log out of Plarium Play and uninstall. Click the link in the description and register with a brand new email. Launch Raid and complete the tutorial. Go to your inbox and claim your first champ. Don't miss out on your chance to get Elenaril right after signing up, as well as Fayne, Uugo, and Tagoar as you progress through Raid. Click on my link right now and let's crush this together. If we look at it at the base value, a triple hitter that removes 7.5% turn meter. It's not on par with Allure. If we talk about Allure, and I'm not saying it has to be on par with her, okay? I'm just comparing because each of these decreases the turn meter by 25%. But then you have the potential chance to get 6 attacks. I think the problem is that realistically getting to 50% HP or less is not as easy as it sounds. Sure, if you're running a counterattack team, if you're running a go second team of some kind on Fire Knight specifically, you're going to take damage. You're an unkillable team even. You're going to take damage and you can counterattack in that way. The problem that I have with this is that it doesn't necessarily help a lot of my teams because my teams are about speed and ally attacks. And we all get a free, really good ally attacker in the game, which is Mikage. So I'm a little disappointed in the way that the 6 times hitter works, that you have to be 50% HP or less, because you're creating a vulnerable team that's going to take damage, and that can be difficult to manage in my opinion. I feel like you're going to have more success with a go first and then control the boss type of approach, rather than a, yeah, go ahead and hit me first and then I'll control you approach. So I'm just voicing my opinion here. I'm a little disappointed with that, and I don't think it's the magical Fire Knight killer that it initially appears to be. Because even on my main account, this is a heavy account. I've been playing it for a while. I have a lot of stats, and my Fire Knight hard 10 teams sometimes fails because of a 3%, and one hit from Fire Knight will kill my defense-based champions, right? So she's not a defense-based champion. In fact, I think she's on the other screen. She's an attack-based champion. So you're not... I just don't think that you're going to get as much play with this as people may assume when you get a first look at it. I just want to be real about that. Do I think it's a bad A1? No, I think it's a great A1. Can you utilize this effectively? Yes, you can, but I think it's going to be difficult in some ways to fulfill that 50% requirement. All right, we'll move on. The A2 books down to a 3-turn cooldown. Attacks one enemy before attacking, places the big version of decreased defense and an HP burn on the target for 3 turns. These debuffs cannot be resisted if under a veil or perfect veil. Important to note, just looking ahead, it does not appear that there is a veil or perfect veil in Kassandra's kit by default. Okay, places a stun on all enemies for 1 turn if the damage dealt by this skill is more than 50% of target's max HP. This debuff cannot be resisted if under a veil or perfect veil. So it's a single target hitter, but it does bring decreased defense and HP burn. Unresistible as well. Probably not that bad. It doesn't scream anything special at first, but if you compare her with a veil or perfect veil, you can get a lot of value out of it. I just don't know where that value translates to. Some of the best single target hitters have multi-turn effects involved. I don't see any of that in their kit. For example, like Rotos, Rotos can just squash a team sometimes and just go on a roll, which is really cool. We're not really seeing that here. I am interested in the burn and the decreased defense, and the stun is really cool. I like that you don't have to kill the enemy to get the stun as well. And it's an unresistible stun, so that is probably going to be pretty useful, to be honest, because I find a lot of times that, when I'm facing a stronger opponent, I'm doing 70, 80, 90% of their HP and damage, and I go, oh, I just lost, right? I didn't have enough stats to beat this guy who's, better than me. So this is an opportunity where it's like, you're not going to be able to kill them, but you could stun the whole team, and of course you have to be under a veil or a perfect veil. So is there a relic that does that now? Maybe. I haven't looked at the relics that are coming from this event either, so who knows? But we'll move on. I don't know. We have to wait and see how good that will be. The A3, a 6-turn, books down to a 4-turn, removes all debuffs from this champion, heals them by 50% of their max HP, and fills their turn meter by 50%. Places increased attack, shatter, and increased speed for 2 turns. Passive effect prevents this champion's death and keeps them alive on 1 HP if they are under an increase attack, shatter, and increase speed. Okay, this is something that makes a lot of sense on paper, but it's counterintuitive. So what you're telling me, to be able to prevent the death of the champion, I need to use this ability. So you're wanting me to heal myself by 50% of my HP when my A1 benefits from me being below 50%. I'm getting a 50% turn meter fill, so I'm going to come back to my turn relatively quickly. I'm basically hoping to get attacked so that I can survive and get back to my turn, assuming that the hit isn't also associated with some type of other crowd control type thing. It feels very counterintuitive to me. If you're looking to land that 6 attack A1, you don't want to heal yourself necessarily, but you have to use it or else you run the risk of not staying alive on 1 HP. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that. Like I said, it just feels very counterintuitive. The other issue that I have with this self buff is that it seemingly does nothing. If you imagine yourself being in a fight and it is your nuker's turn. Let's say you have a new account, you've got Kassandra, you're building her as your nuker. You're going to want increased attack, you're going to want shatter, and you're going to want increased speed, but you don't get an extra turn. There are other champions who give themselves really powerful buffs to do a bunch of damage and then get an extra turn. We get 50% turn meter, great, but I'm not guaranteeing that I'm going to get to use these buffs. I can self-buff, the enemy takes a turn, and let's say it's Fabian. All my buffs are gone. So it's a really ineffective A3 when you look at it in that sense. I just don't feel like it fits within it just doesn't work together. It feels very, very underwhelming to not have a self buff either on an ability a la Thor, or a self buff into an extra turn. So we can talk about a couple of other comparisons, and these are both, I believe, they're not both fusions, but two champions that come to mind. One of them is Thor. Thor is amazing, right? We all know that. Thor buffs himself before attacking. Great, right? I can go into a fight and say, I don't need to bring increased attack for this fight. And then you have Tholen as well, self buffs himself before using his attack. That buff is so important. Now, how likely are you to run her with a different increased attack champion? Probably pretty likely, right? Like, you're probably going to be running her with Arbiter or something along those lines. So cool, but missing out on that shatter is frustrating. The increased speed buff is great. I would just like for that to be, I would just like to see more from this ability. And I know that's asking a lot when you're talking about a turn meter fill with a heal, with increased attack, with shatter, with increased speed, but it's the practicality of it, right? There's just no guarantee that I'm setting myself up for a turn that I may never get. And I don't like that, quite frankly. I want to take advantage immediately of something. Another even better example relative to this specific account, because I'm on my free to play, there's another champion that does this as well, but they do it in the right way. So one of the biggest frustrations with Nice, he's really hard to kill, right? So his A3 removes all debuffs from this champion, puts a bunch of continuous heals equal to the amount of debuffs removed. Let's just say that healing is limited and it only heals him by 50% of his max HP. Sound familiar? But this one places a counterattack and block damage, and they're protected. Meaning, I know that I'm buffing myself. Well, first of all, I'm saving myself, and I'm going to get an extra turn out of this guaranteed, because the block damage will prevent me from dying unless they can do damage through block damage, which is not as common. Again, this is an ability that sets up for you to do damage a turn later. I just personally don't see it working that way with Kassandra, because these aren't protected buffs. They're too easy to remove in this world of Raid Shadow Legends where everybody can remove buffs these days. And it's counterintuitive to what you want from the A1. And then there's also no Veil or Perfect Veil involved here. So you're already having to bring another champion in to get usefulness out of the irresistibility factor of it. I gotta say that as the kit reads, it's a little disappointing, because you want to use this, but I also want to turn it off, right? Because it's a whole wasted turn. If you think of it in terms of Chimera and Hydra, you have a limited turn count. Do you really let's say Chimera even, do you really want to be in a position where not only are you taking one of your 1500 turns to do nothing, but you're also missing out on one of the maybe 5 or 6 or 7 turns you get during the 5 turns that boss is alive? Is she a great Chimera champion? No, like, I'm not saying that she was meant to be a Chimera champion. I'm just saying that this doesn't compute in my eyes. I can be wrong. I most likely am wrong. But the way that it reads just doesn't look like it rotates into itself the way that you would from other self-buffing champions. We can even go simpler to another self-buffing champion that people don't talk about anymore these days, and that's Genbo. Gives himself crit rate, crit damage, and then an extra turn. Yeah, no increased attack, right? No shatter, no full heal or 50% heal. None of these other abilities, I get they're not the same. I can't tell you guys how much you want to be able to roll into that attack. Sitting there with nothing to do, you're opening yourself up to a polymorph, a stun, a fear, buff removal. All of those things are gonna make her difficult to use. And in the grand scheme of things, if you run her in a go first team and just don't use that ability, unless her multipliers are crazy, is she going to be that much better than a Tholen, than a Sun Wukong, than Xenomorph, right? Who are champions that we've got for Alice, champions that we got for free that hit hard and don't have a turn where they essentially do nothing, right? So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Let me know what you guys think in the comment about that. I'm going to keep going in her review of her kit, but that one's a little frustrating for me. Okay, now this is where things do change and they get pretty good or interesting. Let me preface this and say that I'm pretty certain that this is probably just a typo. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But whenever an enemy's HP drops below 25% after receiving damage from any assassin, they receive additional bonus damage proportional to this champion's attack. This bonus damage will ignore 100% of the target's defense and cannot be critical. Now, I believe all of the assassins have this. If you're wondering what is an assassin, that's going to be any character that is from the Assassin's Creed franchise. Right now, we know at the time of recording, we know of Kassandra and Ezio. So they pair very well together. I will give them credit to that. And this could be pretty dang powerful if you're mixing them together. So I am intrigued by this passive. And this is the next passive is where I say that this is probably a typo. Whenever this champion attacks an enemy, increases this champion's attack by an amount equal to 50% of the target's defense. Whenever an enemy attacks this champion, increases this champion's defense by an amount equal to 50% of the attacker's attack. There is seemingly no cap on this ability based on how it's written. That is broken. If that is how she is designed to be, we are talking massive amounts of damage as this goes forward. If you pair her with an ally attacker or a counter attacker, she is going to scale very quickly and hit very, very hard if it remains uncapped. And this is starting to become a trend where there is seemingly something broken about a fusion. And then it begs the question, are they going to nerf that or not? My guess is that it's a typo. We have to wait and see when the test server stuff go. Actually, it's not even test server because I think it starts already. So I don't even think anyone's had a chance to play with her on the test server. So we won't really know, I think, how busted that passive will be. But if that passive is legitimate, she will do insane amounts of damage. And to go back to Hydra, ignoring all the negative things I have about kind of the rest of the kit, whenever an enemy's HP drops below 25%, they're immediately going to get blown up by an infinite attack from her. An infinite attack hit, theoretically, that ignores all defense but can't be critical. I would, if that's what I'm going for, I would just probably build her in a really, like a bomb build, like a really high attack build, and maybe not even worry about crit rate and just go attack everything and just rely on this to be a big damage dealer whenever you take a head or a decapitated head below 25% and they just go pop, pop all Hydra long. I can just see that being very powerful. Makes her very weak against other bosses that have very, very large HP pools that never die. And then, well, this raises the question though, will she gain infinite attack against Chimera? Because if you wait to do Chimera with her after Chimera is already below 25%, so I'm doing Chimera tonight and they're at 0 HP. So that means every time she attacks, she's gaining stats. She would be able to seemingly get infinite attack on every single hit that she does on this boss. Like I said, it sounds broken. They have released other champions that were broken and kept them the same, a la Titus. Then they had other champions that they nerfed. So I really, truly don't know what's going to happen with that passive, but it's very powerful on paper as it is currently written right now, because there apparently is no cap on this. So furthermore, I love speed in all battles auras. These are becoming increasingly more valuable as we get more areas in the game. And to have a freebie of that aura is somewhat unique, especially when you're talking about Grim Forest. There are many times in Grim Forest where I got a roll and of my champions and nobody had a speed aura. which is just frustrating, right? So to have one on these damage dealers is pretty nice. So I do like that. It's a very interesting kit. If I'm right and it's broken, that's great. I think she's going to be awesome. And I will say this, if Plarium waits until after the fusion to address this issue, I won't be so okay with that. The reason being, people are going to fuse her with this expectation that she's going to be broken. And then they're going to be like, oh, by the way, it's capped at 50% of her attack. She can't go higher than that, or 100% of her attack. You know, that's reasonable. That makes sense. It's still good, but it's not broken good. So I don't know, man. It sounds fun to go unlimited attack on a champion. Now, could this only be like for that one hit? That would make sense, and then it goes away, but that would make it less effective, certainly. So either way, that's how I feel about it, guys. Only time will tell. I look forward to seeing her tested and played around with. But yeah, in the meantime, thank you guys so much for your support. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Take care.